Welcome back to Capital Connections. I'm your host, John O'Connor. Let's now join River Valley residents to hear Secretary Clinton's reflections on workplace equality.
How are you planning on stopping gerrymandering and segregation in the public school systems?
Very good question. Very timely question. First of all, you're absolutely right that racial disparities are not all due to unequal income. In fact, there are, as I said to an earlier questioner, there are systemic issues within our workforce, within our communities, that really do undermine the chances for many African Americans, for many Hispanics, for many poor whites to make progress. So I think specifically about segregation, we have to do more to enforce the Fair Housing Act, which is what the Supreme Court upheld a few weeks ago, because, as you know, schools are based on locality, physical locality. And we also need to provide more public school choices and other choices to students so that they can move if they feel like their school is not providing the kind of education that they are seeking. And then finally, I think we've got to do more to support the idea that segregated education just doesn't produce a quality education that gives the children who are within it the same opportunities as they would have if they were able to attend a more integrated facility. There are a lot of ideas that are being floated around about that. Some of it is a resource idea. I mean, you're right that there's a lot of segregation, particularly in big cities, but there's also a starvation of resources. And so it's a kind of chicken and egg. Which comes first? Do you try to get more resources into those schools so that you can do what we were talking about earlier, trying to improve education, try to give more young people a chance? Do you try to provide options for kids to leave those schools because they are poorly resourced and go elsewhere without doing anything to fix the schools where the kids are remaining? Do you give vouchers to families so that they can, move away from segregated communities and live in communities where there are better schools? All of that has to be examined, because what we know now from really great research that was done at Harvard is if you look at counties, every county in America, you can see whether or not there's a lot of upward mobility in those counties. In other words, if a child is born in this county, will that child have a good or not so good chance of getting an education, of going to college, of starting a job or starting a business, so that in 10, 20 years you can actually compare? And there are places in our country that show a lot of upward mobility. Two that come to mind right now are Salt Lake City and San Francisco. One that doesn't have a lot of upward mobility is Atlanta. So Atlanta's a rich city with a lot of rich people, but that hasn't necessarily translated into upward mobility. San Francisco is a city with a lot of rich people, but they make investments that actually translate into better opportunities for people. So we have to sort all this out, unpack it, if you will, and try to figure out how we give more kids more chances to be successful, to be upwardly mobile, wherever they live, and to try to fit the solution to the problem as it exists, because in different places it's different. So we don't want to say one size fits all, but we have to address it.
When Capital Connections returns, we'll hear Secretary Hillary Clinton give her views on career paths for young women in the workplace. But now let's turn to the messages from the good businesses that support our show.